Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the XForceGlobal channel. Thank you very much for joining me here today. Hope you're all having a fantastic week. Today, we're back with another Bitcoin analysis, and I'm here to make sure to update the price action from our prior analysis and see how we can go forward with the updated wave counts. Now, starting right off the bat, we have the same idea here and nothing really too much to update, and there's no point in making creative wave counts because for the time being, the trend is still shooting for the upside, and that is the narrative that we have been talking about for the past not only few weeks but few months as well. We've been talking about how this move here was a completed or terminated wave 4, meaning that this was the end of a trend and we're now working in a different trend here as a possible 5 wave or impulsive move to the upside to complete the trend for a possible fifth of a third to wait until we can see what kind of a pullback we can have. So for the time being, I think the trend is still intact and we're doing quite well with the current time of recording. We can see that we've been talking about this being a possible 1, 2, 3. We've had a lot of opportunities to show these hybrid actionary waves and reactionary waves where this could have been a possible ABC. This pullback here, we've had a lot of interest in talking about what kind of creative counts we can be doing, but again, it's ranged and we've been talking about this triangle possibility of a breakout, and our highest probability looks like it is being validated as we speak. Now, we haven't broken the previous high just yet of this wave 3, and once we do, that'll validate it quite nicely, but we still do have a little bit of resistances in terms of what kind of scenarios we can talk about of a possible pullback. But for the time being, like I've said, with the current data given, I think that this ending as a wave 4 triangle is now, in hindsight, the highest possibility of a possible continuation to the upside, not only due to the fact that we have the post-thrust measurement of the triangle being validated now, we're just now looking for how far this wave 5 is going to be going further. Now, for the time being, with the current data given, like I've said, we are working in a possible 1, 2, 1, 2. Depending on how far this micro time frame retracement happens, it really doesn't matter. What should we be talking about more is how it's going to be or where it's going to be ending once we do breach these all-time highs. So for the time being, again, the idea still sticks and rings true to the possibility of a wave 5 of the primary degree that's going to be finishing this wave 5 of a fifth and then of a third of a larger degree. And if you're curious about the macro counts, please do go back to my previous video, and then we will be looking for the shorting opportunity, and at that point I think we will be looking for what kind of momentum indicators can be giving us a little bit more signals or red flags of a possible pullback. For the time being, the market sentiment is quite strong, so we should stick with the trend, and the trend is your friend until it isn't. So nothing to talk about too much in this idea. The idea still remains, other than we're just now kind of recapping the idea that we're now in the stage of validation. So this idea is still the main case. I think there's another possibility I have said. Now the subjectivity comes a little bit further with these alternative scenarios, meaning that this is a possible 1, 2, 1, 2 idea, which is far more bullish. So this idea still remains as not only the more bullish scenario, but just as an alternative for the time being, because again, the subjectivity and something that I also do agree upon, which is the failures of 1, 2, 1, 2 ideas. They're more prone to failures, and again, these ideas are yet to be validated. And again, just like the triangle, these higher or more intra-day time frame, micro time frame counts are very difficult to kind of validate. So when we come back in hindsight, and if we're up in these regions over here, maybe we'll start validating this idea depending on the severity of and how parabolic of this look of this extension is going to be for this primary wave 3. This is going to be even far more bullish if this idea does play out. So nothing to talk about this idea other than this being extremely bullish. Now, let's talk about what kind of pullback scenarios we can be having. Now, the only way really I've reduced a lot of the scenarios, but this is a new idea that we could be kind of validating, which is, again, has to be played out perfectly. This idea, we're just entertaining the idea that there could be a possibility of a pullback. There is always going to be alternatives for pullbacks. So what this means is, instead of having our wave 4 termination here, we're going to have our wave 4 termination here within a certain range of Fibonacci's, right? So what that means is we are able to create some kind of triangle here. Now, I've talked about a triangle, a contracting triangle. We've had the opportunity, but this contracting triangle idea is pretty much out of the picture. So the only option left is now a much rarer barrier triangle. Now, we have a barrier triangle possibly like this, where the BD trend line has ended at nearly or ultimately the same spot in terms of where the retracements happen. So this BD trend line is going to be crucial in terms of this idea. So this already reduces the validity of this scenario. But if we're going to be kind of idealizing what kind of pullback scenarios and arranging scenarios we're going to be having, it's possibly the only way we can do it as an ABC move here, and it's already being quite close to invalidation, as you can be seeing with this red line here. So this ABC idea is going to be unfolding as a three-way move. We're going to be looking for a five-way move here. Again, unlikely because we've already had so many breaks above. We not only go back into the territory of these levels, most likely in the 618 zone here, it just doesn't make sense to me. And at that point, I still think it's going to be bullish no matter what. And I don't think it's going to be playing out as a triangle, but rather as a flat idea here, which I'll go over in the next idea. But for me, this triangle idea is also out of the picture. But since there are bears looming around, maybe they are bold enough to take a short within these regions here where their heart says they want to short, but we all know that pretty much everyone is wanting to long just by market sentiment. This idea is still in the works. We'll have to validate it based on how these levels break, and we are not even there right now. We've already had 2 opportunities to do so, but for the time being, this idea remains as some kind of entertainment for the time being. So this idea of a triangle is possible. Now, I did talk about the idea of a flat scenario where this is a little bit more likelier than the triangle idea. But this also has its drawbacks as well, because we have to utilize this move here as a 5-way move now. So this move here as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 leads us into primary wave 1. And now instead of seeing this move as a 1, 2, 3 or a 1, 2, 1, 2 idea, this is now just utilized as a completed trend to the upside as a wave 1. So not invalid, but again, just due to the fact that wave 1 and wave 3 was similar in length as well. And even if it's not, this wave 1 is technically longer than this wave 3, is that since this wave 5 was short, we've met that expectation of a possible impulse to the upside. But this wave 4 in relation to this wave 2, it just doesn't seem likely. I think that if this was a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this would have been a much easier completed trend, and then we can talk about a 1, 2 idea. But for the time being, since we do have this possible notion idea of this being a flat idea, this idea still is valid in terms of how we can utilize this as the new range of play right now for a corrective pattern. So what we're looking for here is, since we got a 3-wave here, and we're looking for a 3-wave here, possibly as an WXY, we're looking for this B pocket zone as either completed, where it has now met the 90% retracement for this B as a regular flat, and if we are going to be, which is more likely at this point, to go into the expanded pocket zone, is going to be anywhere between the 105% to the 138% for this B pocket to validate as an expanded flat. And then we're going to look for a 5-way move down for a wave C. And that, in my opinion, is going to be possibly as a 1, 2. Now, people are labeling this still as a wave 3 and a possible wave 4. This idea is out of the picture for me, because by that time, in my opinion, if we do create even a possibility of going into for a B pocket expanded zone, we're going to come back, and if we're going to validate this possible expanded flat, it has to breach the origin or the termination of wave A into the possible wave 1. So if this is a wave 1 and this is a wave 2 and this is a wave 3 and this is a wave 4, this is going to be going into the territory of wave 1. So that idea is invalidated, and we can already kind of do 3-4 steps ahead and say that this is not the idea. So this already downgrades this idea, even part of the possible 1, 2, as a flat, because this idea now has to be utilized as a 5-wave move, and you're forcing yourself to kind of be a little bit hypocritical of yourself as a bear, because originally a lot of the bears said that this was not an impulse, but now you're forcing yourself to see this as an impulse, because now you have to see this idea as a 1, 2, if you're seeing this as a flat idea of a retracement. So that's the possibility here. Now we do have another possibility of this being a leading diagonal going into a wave A, where we have a 3, 3, 3, 3, 3 going into a wave 1. And this was our original wave 2. Now this had the peak validation within these regions here at the 786. Already we've talked about why this was not the case, or at the least probable scenario. This idea is now pretty much invalidated for me. But again, we can have a 1, 2 just as likely, but again, it's very close to invalidation. So that's why the flat idea is a little bit likelier than this, albeit both of them are very least likely at this point. So I've already discussed why this idea is the least probable scenario, because we've talked about this quite a bit, and I don't know why people are still talking about this being a leading diagonal. I know a few other people are talking about this still. This idea should be completely removed from your ideas of probabilities. We should not be at this point talking about this idea and leading or misleading our followers into this idea being a leading diagonal in thinking that this is going to be a possibility to the downside. Now, the higher probability scenario, in my opinion, could be the possibility of this being a flat idea, where this idea is going to be an A, and this is going to be a B, and this whole move is utilized as a flat idea. Now, this idea, again, I don't like working with flats. We've talked about this so many times. We've talked about why flats are of a larger caliber, of a larger time frame rather, is unlikely at this point, right? And again, if you're working with a clean slate, doesn't this look more like a five-way move to you? It sure does to me. I mean, it doesn't have to be, but it sure looks like more of a five-way move to the upside than it does like a three-way move. But since we're here to entertain, I guess we could say that this could be an ABC. So let's remove this triangle scenario. We can say that this is an ABC going into wave W. And if that flat idea plays out, and again, if, that's a big if, we can label this as a wave X, and then another three-way move up into wave Y, and that will be our wave B scenario. And then we can talk about how far this moves, and if it even moves further up, at that point we might even just start working with the bear scenario. As a bear, you should at that point already just wait a little bit longer instead of trying to keep shorting and finding the possible tops, and then we'll have that larger move to the downside as a five-way move, and that'll be the larger corrective move. So at this point, it's just a wait and play game. I think at this point most people are already positioned within long positions at this point. I'm not sure about open interest at this current time of recording, but I know for a fact that people are still expecting all-time highs, including me, to be breaking. And there's nothing wrong with being a bull, ladies and gentlemen. People think it's against the law to be a bull. It's not. Just play with what you believe is the higher scenarios. I'm here to just be a messenger. I'm giving you the possible scenarios here and why I think the bear scenarios have been invalidated quite often. This zone here, I mean, when we were talking about the triangle, this had its highest validation of a peak validation of a continuation to the downside, even for that possible Y of Y of a combo. We did a great job of discerning and kind of removing that X wave idea and that Y wave idea of a double combo. That idea is already looking extremely less likely now at this point, right? So you're really refined down to forcing yourself to see this as a possible triangle. You're also refining yourself to be still bullish overall, because even with this pullback here as a flat, you're still seeing this as a wave 2 no matter what, because this move up here, again, you have to utilize this as a five-way move going into wave 1, and I've already given my reasons on why this is not a 3 and this is not a 4, because just other than the fact of a possible regular flat being created, it still doesn't fit the symmetrical look to it, or symmetry and geometry wise. I just think that this is going to be better utilized as a new range as a possible 1-2 before we break into new all-time highs. So that is the overall scenario, ladies and gentlemen. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but hopefully that was helpful. I'll have more updates for altcoins coming into this weekend, starting probably tomorrow. For Ethereum, I know a lot of people are interested in Ethereum, ADA, XRP, Dogecoin, Pepe, meme coins in general. I have a lot of ideas for that. And if you're interested in seeing those ideas more quicker, please join us at the XForceGlobal Discord membership. The link is in the description below for a small fee. If you're interested in joining, please do give me a contact. And if you're not following me on social media, please do give me a follow at X, formerly known as Twitter. Handle being the XForceGlobal, same handle. Please do give me a follow there. Hopefully that was helpful, ladies and gentlemen. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you very much. Have a fantastic week.